I never want to go back to the United States. I want to live in Singapore. Just 3 minutes after landing at Changi Airport. Why did these elite members, accustomed to the world's finest and belonging to the top 1% of American society, suddenly break down in tears, calling their parents and demanding to refuse to return home? This was a commotion that escalated to the point of even alarming the U.S. Department of Education. The true story of a school trip. Even those who had visited Paris and London without batting an eyelid found their hearts captivated. What stole their hearts was not glittering tourist attractions, but a certain everyday miracle, often overlooked and taken for granted. Just a 48-hour stay transformed their outlook on life and even reshaped the future of a nation. This is a shocking story, so please, prepare your tissues. An American high school student from a prestigious family on a school trip to Singapore arrived at Changi Airport. After just 3 minutes, she became so utterly enchanted that she refused to return home. The shocking reasons are now creating a huge stir within the U.S. Department of Education. According to the Singaporean government statistics for 2025, the number of visitors to Singapore increased by 68% compared to the previous year, reaching 230,000. Singapore is particularly popular among young Americans, and the number of international schools choosing Singapore as their destination for school trips is rapidly increasing. Among them, a special school trip was organized for elite female students from the Commonwealth Academy, a renowned institution in Washington, D.C., exclusively for the children of the top 1% of society. The events of their journey sparked a massive sensation on social media. I want to live in Singapore. I don't want to go back to the United States. It's said that one student, just 3 minutes after arriving at Changi Airport, called her parents, pleading with them to look into studying abroad in Singapore. Another student, so enamored with Singapore, even attempted to disappear on the last day of their trip to avoid returning home. What exactly was it about Singapore that so captivated these privileged young women? Before the story begins, please subscribe to the channel and hit the like button to support our content creation. Thank you to all my viewers for your continued support. I hope you all have a healthy and happy end to the year. Friends who support Singapore, please leave "Go Singapore" in the comments. My name is Sophia, and one 8-year-old from the Commonwealth Academy in Washington, D.C. Our school is one of the most prestigious institutions in the United States, with students predominantly being the children of high-ranking officials, corporate executives, and top-tier lawyers. My father is an executive at a major energy company, and my mother is an international lawyer. Consequently, I had visited various European countries since childhood: Paris, London, Rome, Berlin. But no matter where I went, they all felt somewhat similar. Old buildings, high prices, and often indifferent people. However, my true interest lay elsewhere: Singapore. To be honest, I was completely obsessed with Singaporean pop music and dramas. At night, I would secretly put on my headphones and listen to artists like JJ Lin and Stephanie Sunday. I'd also watch Singaporean dramas with subtitles, slowly learning the language. But my parents held a different view. Sophia, Singapore? Do you even know where that is? My father regarded Singapore merely as a tiny island in Asia. My mother echoed his sentiment. Wouldn't it be more beneficial to see Europe or America? But I didn't give up. When it came time to vote for our school trip destination, I, of course, chose Singapore. To my surprise, over half of my friends also voted for Singapore. It was then that I truly realized how deeply Singaporean culture had permeated among young Americans, especially the influence of bubble tea and cutting-edge technology. Ultimately, the school decided on Singapore as our destination. The night before departure, I was too excited to sleep. I couldn't believe I was finally going to Singapore. Yet, at the same time, a tiny seed of worry sprouted. What if the real Singapore wasn't what I imagined? What if I was disappointed? These thoughts swirled in my mind. In the car on the way to the airport, my mother said, "Don't expect too much. It's just a small island, nothing compared to Europe." I nodded, but in my heart, I wanted to retort, "Mom, you just don't understand Singapore." At the airport, I met up with my friends, all buzzing with excitement. Our group leader was Mrs. Elena Vance, a seasoned teacher with 30 years of experience. Though strict, she genuinely cared for her students. Before we departed, Mrs. Vance gathered us and said, "Everyone, please be polite and orderly. We represent the United States." We nodded and boarded the plane. Watching the gray skies of Washington, D.C. fade into the distance, my heart fluttered with anticipation. After a long flight, we finally arrived at Changi International Airport. It was 11:20 p.m. The moment the plane door opened, my heart pounded. Finally stepping onto Singaporean soil, I walked through the gate and into the arrival hall, my mouth agape. Mrs. Vance, is this really an airport? It's like a garden. Despite the late hour, the airport was brightly lit, as if it were daytime. The floors gleamed like mirrors, impeccably clean. It was a stark contrast to any airport I'd seen in the States, where after 10 p.m., most lights would be dimmed, shops wouldn't open until the next morning, floors were often smudged, and staff were usually rather aloof. But here, every information desk was staffed with smiling personnel, ready to assist. I even saw cleaning staff offer friendly smiles and nods to passing passengers. Was this real? I couldn't believe my eyes, for this was a sight utterly unimaginable back home. A friend grabbed my arm and whispered, "Sophia, this place is incredible. It's so clean, even at night, and there are so many people. And the air, it smells wonderfully of orchids." I nodded in agreement. As we queued for immigration, I was surprised once more. Even though we were an unexpected group of foreign students, the staff showed no signs of being flustered. A volunteer who spoke fluent English was swiftly arranged to assist us. "Hello, welcome to Singapore, students." With fluent English, she addressed us. My friends and I exchanged astonished glances. The volunteer, mindful of our age, slowly and politely explained all the procedures, from filling out the arrival card to where to collect our luggage, and even tomorrow's itinerary. "If you have any inconveniences or questions, please let us know at any time," she concluded with a warm smile. I couldn't help but wonder when I had last received such thoughtful care. At European airports, being treated with indifference or even disdain as a foreigner wasn't uncommon. Standing before the automated immigration gates, I felt puzzled by this machine I'd never seen before. Immediately, a staff member in a vest approached, guiding me kindly. "Please place your passport here and look at this screen. It supports English too, you see." Oh, indeed. The screen supported multiple languages, including English, and the intuitive design made it easy to operate. When I finished, I turned back to see my friends, all wearing looks of disbelief as they used the machines. Next, we moved to the baggage claim. A massive electronic display board showed the real-time location of our luggage. Back home, it often took an hour just to find luggage, with no staff to ask if it went missing. But here, every system operated precisely and quickly. My luggage appeared in less than 10 minutes. While waiting for my bag, I took out my smartphone and messaged my dad. "Dad, can you look up university information for Singapore for me? This place is seriously amazing. I've only been here for 3 minutes, but I'm already in love with it." After sending the message, I realized what I had written. Singaporean university information. The thought had emerged unconsciously. I hadn't even left the airport yet, but I already sensed that this country was completely different from what I had imagined, more developed, more refined, and infinitely more humane. Mrs. Vance gathered us. "All right, everyone. We're moving to the hotel now. Does everyone have their luggage?" We nodded and followed her. As we exited the airport, I kept looking around. There were 24-hour convenience stores, currency exchange counters, and even telecom kiosks, all clean, bright, and orderly. Stepping outside, the humid, tropical night air brushed against my face. We headed to the bus boarding area. Our bus arrived. We stowed our luggage and boarded. The bus interior was also very clean, with comfortable seats and strong air conditioning. The driver turned around and, in English, said, "Welcome to Singapore. We expect to arrive in downtown in about 40 minutes. Please fasten your seatbelts." It was a thoughtful gesture, knowing we were foreign passengers. I fastened my seatbelt and gazed out the window. The bus departed, and Changi Airport gradually receded. The expressway to downtown Singapore stretched before us. Even at night, the road was well lit, and vehicles moved in an orderly fashion. It was unlike the often dimly lit and chaotic roads in major US cities at night. "Look!" A friend pointed out the window, shouting, "There are brightly lit shops everywhere. Are those convenience stores?" Everyone looked out. Indeed, every few hundred meters, there was a 7-Eleven or Fair Price Express, brightly lit, with people casually going in and out. It was past midnight. Back home, most shops would close by 10 p.m. My friend's comments elicited nods of agreement from everyone. Then, we witnessed an even more astonishing sight. We saw young women walking alone on the streets at past 1 a.m. They wore headphones, dressed in shorts, strolling leisurely, as if on an evening walk. Some were even riding bright yellow public bicycles, SG bikes, without a hint of fear. My jaw dropped in disbelief, for this was a scene utterly unimaginable in the United States. In many American cities, women walking alone after 10 p.m. is often considered risky, given news reports of street violence or abductions. I myself would never venture out alone at night, always accompanied by my father or our driver. But here in Singapore, it was different. Even approaching 2 a.m., women could walk alone, relaxed, perhaps scrolling through their smartphones or grabbing a late-night snack. "Mrs. Vance, aren't those women in danger?" I asked. Mrs. Vance, too, looked out the window in surprise, then asked the bus driver in English, "Is it safe for women to walk alone here at night?" The driver smiled and replied, "Of course. Singapore has very good public safety. It's very safe at night. There are surveillance cameras everywhere and many convenience stores. Women can walk around with peace of mind." At that moment, a warmth spread through my chest. Such a country actually existed. My friends also looked at each other, their faces etched with astonishment. I thought, this is what a truly advanced nation looks like. Not just glamorous buildings or expensive luxury shops, but a country where citizens can walk safely at night. This was real progress. The bus continued its journey into downtown Singapore. As we approached the city center, the Singapore Flyer and the dazzling Marina Bay Sands came into view. The iconic boat-shaped hotel, atop 3 towers, illuminated against the night sky, along with the surrounding cluster of buildings in Marina Bay, shone with glamorous lights. Some buildings even projected dynamic light shows. "Wow, it's really like a futuristic city," one friend exclaimed. It was true. This felt completely different from the ancient cities of Europe. While Paris and London had beautiful historical architecture, they often felt a bit old and worn. But Singapore was different, modern, vibrant, and full of energy. As we crossed a bridge spanning the Singapore River, I almost held my breath. The night view from the bridge was simply breathtaking. The high-rises lining both banks, the lights on the bridge, and their reflections on the water, all harmonized perfectly. "Sophia, take a picture." My friend tapped my shoulder. I quickly pulled out my phone and captured the scene, but no photo could truly capture its beauty. This was an emotion that could only be felt by seeing it with my own eyes. At 2:30 a.m., we finally arrived at our hotel. Stepping out, I looked around. To my surprise, the area around the hotel still seemed vibrant. A 24-hour hawker center was brightly lit, convenience stores had customers, and people were still walking on the streets. In Washington, D.C., this hour would typically be a dead of night, but Singapore felt like a city that never fully slept. Inside the hotel lobby, modern decor greeted us. During check-in, the front desk staff, noting our age group, assigned us rooms on a quiet floor. "Since you are students, we've arranged for a quiet floor for you. Please rest well." Although not fluent, the staff member spoke slowly in English, making it easy to understand. She meticulously explained everything from breakfast times to nearby facilities. "If you need anything or have any questions, please contact the front desk. We are available 24 hours. What truly moved me was the genuine welcome. "Welcome to Singapore. We hope you have a pleasant stay." That warm smile and heartfelt greeting melted my heart. In the elevator heading to our rooms, a friend turned to me and said, "Sophia, Singapore is nothing like what I imagined." I nodded. Yeah, it's so much better than I thought. It was just a ride from the airport to the hotel, but it felt like experiencing a world completely different from home. Other friends agreed. "Exactly. I feel the same way. So safe at night, so clean, and people are so warm and friendly. I can't believe it." We reached our room, opened the door, and a clean, comfortable space greeted us. The bed looked soft, and the bathroom was sparkling. I opened the window and looked out. It was almost 3 a.m., yet the streets were still brightly lit. Convenience stores, late-night eateries, and cafes were all open, with people casually coming and going. This city was truly a city that never slept. At that moment, I understood why Singapore had developed so well. The people here seemed to work, live, and strive ceaselessly, yet they looked happy. It seemed they chose this lifestyle, rather than being forced into it. Lying on the bed, I couldn't sleep. Too many thoughts swirled in my mind. The impressive airport, the safe night streets, the vibrant city. My entire perception of the world had been overturned. Things I considered normal in the United States, women not walking alone at night, shops closing late, airports being dimly lit and dirty, staff being cold and unapproachable. I had assumed these were universal truths, that the world simply was this way. But coming to Singapore, I realized that the world could be different. A safer, more convenient, and friendlier society could be created. And it wasn't some extraordinary feat, but the result of civic consciousness and efficient systems. I picked up my phone and messaged my mom. Mom, Singapore is seriously incredible. It's nothing like what you think. I'll call you tomorrow, after I see more things. Love you. After sending the message, I put my phone down and looked out the window again. Singapore's night was still bright and alive. Looking at those lights, I wondered how much more I would see in the coming days. What other surprises would Singapore reveal? Anticipation and excitement quickened my heartbeat. That night, I couldn't fall into a deep sleep, or rather, I didn't want to. I wanted to continuously feel this moment, this emotion, this excitement. Gazing at the lights outside my window, I vowed in my heart that on this trip, I would imprint everything about Singapore into my memory. And one day, I would return here. Perhaps I would stay longer, study, work, or even truly live here. I had that premonition. Thus, my first night in Singapore passed. I finally fell asleep around 4 a.m., but even in my dreams, I was walking the night streets of Singapore, alone, safe, and free. This was an experience I couldn't even have in my dreams back home. At 6 a.m., I woke up, unable to adjust to the time difference. The clock by the bed showed precisely 6:05 a.m. It was around midnight in Washington, D.C. Though my body was tired, my heart was strangely excited. I heard hushed whispers in the hallway. Opening the door, I found 6 friends who, like me, couldn't sleep, gathered in the corridor. Sophia, you couldn't sleep either? Yeah, time difference. But how did everyone else get out? I'm hungry, want to eat something. But are there any shops open at this hour? Everyone tilted their heads, as finding an eatery open before 8 a.m. back home was a challenge. Cautiously, we knocked on Mrs. Vance's door. She was already awake. Mrs. Vance, we're so hungry. Is there anywhere we can eat? Mrs. Vance also looked a bit troubled, but, to be sure, called the front desk. A moment later, her expression brightened. Everyone. Good news. There's a 24-hour eatery right next to the hotel. 24 hours? We all gasped in astonishment. Being able to eat at 6 a.m. was unimaginable back in the States. We quickly changed and went out. The moment we stepped out of the hotel, we were shocked again. At 6:30 a.m., the streets were already bustling with people. Office workers in shirts rushing to work, motorcyclists commuting, people coming out of convenience stores. Early mornings back home were usually quiet, but Singapore seemed to have already begun its day with full vitality. The eatery was indeed right next to the hotel, a traditional Singaporean hawker stall. The sign read, "Open." As we entered, warm steam mingled with the aroma of braised pork filled the air. There were more customers than we expected. Middle-aged men eating alone while looking at their phones, young students working on laptops, tired-looking delivery drivers, presumably ending their night shifts. Everyone was casually having breakfast. So many people eating at 6 a.m. My eyes widened when I saw the menu. Laksa S. 4. Chicken rice S. 4. Fried kway teow S. Chinch, kaya tosts. 2. Converted to US dollars, these prices were unbelievably cheap. A plate of chicken rice for S. 4 was l'équivalent US. 3. In the States, a meal of comparable quality would cost at least US $12. Considering the average monthly salary back home, one could really appreciate how affordable Singapore's cost of living was in terms of food. The auntie at the stall didn't seem surprised by our presence at all. When Mrs. Vance spoke to her in English, the auntie warmly gestured and pulled out a menu with pictures, recommending popular dishes one by one. This kind of warm Singaporean hospitality touched me. As eatery staff back home were often quite indifferent, we ordered and waited. To our surprise, all the dishes were served within 5 minutes. Laksa, chicken rice, side dishes, all were Singaporean delicacies I was seeing for the first time. A friend picked up a spoon and took a bite of chicken rice. "This is chicken rice?" The perfectly seasoned rice and tender chicken melted in her mouth. Delicious. I couldn't help but exclaim. The flavor was just right, and the rice was perfectly cooked. In no time, I had finished it. The laksa was also amazing, a different league from anything I'd ever tasted back home. The noodles were springy, and the rich, spicy broth was heavenly. The 7 of us devoured our meals. When we finished and paid, we were shocked again. The total bill for 7 people, all full, was only around 30 baht converted at US dollars. That was about US. Arsar. In the States, a similar meal would cost at least $60, almost 3 times the price. The auntie meticulously counted out our change and smiled, saying in simple English, "Good, Mrs." Vance replied, "Yes, very good, thank you." Stepping out, my friends couldn't stop praising the food. Delicious, cheap, and excellent service. It's perfect. Yeah, and the fact that it's open at 6 a.m. is just incredible. I nodded, thinking, I never realized the difference between the United States and Singapore was so vast, not just in economic scale, but in everyday convenience and quality of life. On the way back to the hotel, we stopped by a convenience store. Another surprise awaited us inside. Despite the early morning, the store was as clean and well-stocked as a small supermarket. What was even more astonishing was that it offered services seemingly impossible for a convenience store. Not just groceries, but also bill payments for utilities, ATM withdrawals, and even tickets for the MRT or concerts. Convenience stores back home only sold basic food items, but Singapore's convenience stores were like miniature, all-purpose life centers. My friends each chose their favorite snacks. Singaporean-specific teas and milk beverages were particularly popular. At the checkout, we marveled again. Payment was lightning fast. The moment the barcode was scanned, the price appeared, and tapping an Easy Link card completed the transaction instantly. The staff were friendly. Seeing we were foreigners, they showed no displeasure at all. Instead, they greeted us in English, "Welcome to Singapore." Stepping out of the convenience store, a friend remarked, "Singapore feels like a country that's convenient 24/7. You can always get what you need done." It was truly so. On the walk back to the hotel, the cleanliness of the streets also amazed us. Not a single piece of trash could be seen. It was spotless. Cleaning crews were already at work. Workers in vests swept the streets, making the entire city operate like a perfectly synchronized organism. Back home, only touristy areas were clean, while back alleys were often dirty. But Singapore was different. Not just around the hotel, but even the smallest lanes were impeccably clean. Back in the hotel lobby, other students were also awake. Seeing us, who had gone out earlier, they asked where we'd been. "We went for breakfast. There's a 24-hour place," my friends said enviously. "We want to go next time." At 9 a.m., we began our real exploration of Singapore with all the students. Our first destination was the Singapore Botanic Gardens. Mrs. Vance had chosen it based on a hotel staff's recommendation, saying it was the best place to observe the daily lives of Singaporeans. We decided to take the MRT. The moment we entered the MRT station, the students were again astonished. The station interior was incredibly clean, the floors gleamed, and the walls were spotless, without a single scratch. It was a complete contrast to the often dimly lit and aging subway systems we knew from home. As we rode the escalator down to the platform, even though it was underground, the ventilation system was excellent and the air was fresh. Arriving at the platform, people were lining up orderly, following the white queue lines painted on the floor. "They're lining up," a friend whispered. In some subway systems back home, people would rush and push each other to get on. We looked at the electronic display board and marveled again, as it precisely showed how many minutes and seconds until the next train arrived. 2 minutes and 30 seconds until arrival. A friend checked her phone's clock. The train truly arrived exactly on time, without a second's deviation. When the MRT arrived, people's behavior was even more impressive. The doors opened, and everyone moved to the sides to let disembarking passengers exit first. Only after everyone had gotten off did people orderly board the train. There was no pushing or jostling. The train car was remarkably quiet. No one was eating or drinking. "You can't eat here?" a friend asked, pointing to a sign. "It seems you can't even drink water. No wonder it's so clean." The MRT interior was also striking. Priority seats were left empty for those who needed them. The air conditioning was comfortable and cool, and there was very little noise. However, what surprised me the most was something else. A friend, looking at her phone, exclaimed, "Hey, you can even get internet in the MRT." Everyone pulled out their phones. Indeed, even underground, 4G, 5G networks worked perfectly. Videos played without buffering. This was unimaginable in many underground transport systems back home. My friends immediately started sending real-time photos to their families and friends. I also sent a photo to my mom. "Mom, the internet even works in the MRT, and the order and cleanliness here are so shocking." We arrived at our destination station and came up to the surface. The greenery before us made us all cheer. "Wow, Wide parks and surrounding high-rise buildings, the atmosphere was completely different from what we were used to, seeming much more complete, clean, and vibrant. Entering the park, an even more amazing sight unfolded. Many citizens were exercising. Joggers, people doing Tai Chi, even some practicing yoga. It was a weekday morning, yet so many people were casually exercising. At that moment, I discovered the most impressive thing: the public exercise equipment installed throughout the park. Treadmills, elliptical trainers, and various other exercise machines were being used by many citizens, especially the elderly. An elderly man was using an exercise machine, looking sprightly and energetic. We were all surprised. I read the sign. All exercise equipment is free to use. Anyone can use it freely. And it's free? My friends exclaimed in astonishment. Back home, you usually had to pay for a gym membership to exercise. Public exercise equipment was rare, and if it existed, it was often old and unsafe to use. But Singapore was different. The government, for the health of its citizens, had installed public exercise equipment everywhere, and it was free. An elderly woman was practicing Tai Chi, a gentle smile on her face. I gathered my courage and spoke to her. "Excuse me, do you come here every day?" The old lady, perhaps not fluent in English, replied with gestures. She came every day to exercise for her health, then smiled and gave a thumbs up. She even took out candies from her bag and offered them to us. The moment I saw the old lady's radiant smile, I realized why Singapore's elderly seemed so healthy and vibrant. It was because the country had excellent infrastructure for its seniors: free exercise equipment, clean parks, a safe environment, and that optimistic, friendly human touch. I suddenly thought of my grandmother. She had passed away last year. She lived alone in a small apartment back home. After a fall in winter, her health rapidly deteriorated. Medical costs were too high, and she couldn't receive proper treatment. Although she said she wanted to exercise in the park, parks back home often became desolate and dangerous in winter. How wonderful it would have been if my grandmother had lived in a country like this. Tears welled up in my eyes. My grandmother, a hard worker all her life, spent her later years alone and in pain. But Singapore's elderly women were different, exercising for free in clean parks, living healthy and active later years. This was truly an advanced nation, not just economically developed, but one that cared for its citizens, especially the vulnerable. Sitting on a park bench, taking a short rest, I looked around. Many families were also there. Mothers pushing strollers, strolling peacefully, a scene of everyday tranquility. What particularly struck me were the dog owners. Everyone kept their dogs on leashes and diligently cleaned up after their pets. Back home, dog waste was often left unattended, but Singapore was different. Everyone took personal responsibility for maintaining cleanliness. Around 1 p.m., we left the park. Mrs. Vance told us our next destination. Next, we're going to a famous bookstore in the city center. There's a special space there. A bookstore? My friends looked slightly disappointed, seemingly expecting to go shopping. Mrs. Vance smiled. "You can buy things there too, but I want to show you something first." We headed to the famous Books Kinokuniya in the city center. The moment we entered the building, the students' eyes widened. It wasn't just a bookstore. Wooden floors, soft lighting, and shelves filled with literary treasures. It was like a cultural sanctuary. "Is this really a bookstore?" a friend asked, disbelievingly. But Mrs. Vance wanted to show us more than just the architectural beauty. "Come everyone, look closely around you," she whispered. I looked around and then understood. It was 2 p.m. on a weekday, yet many citizens were reading. Some sat on the floor, others in designated reading areas, engrossed in their books. What particularly stood out were the office workers in their shirts. One man opened a finance book, taking enthusiastic notes. "Aren't those people working?" a friend whispered. Mrs. Vance explained. "They're probably using their lunch break or spare time. Singaporeans love to read. This bookstore even has a 24-hour branch where people can read late into the night." I was shocked. Office workers back home usually spent their breaks at cafes, drinking coffee or smoking. But Singaporean office workers were reading in bookstores. They truly seemed to value learning. "So, lifelong learning," I murmured. Mrs. Vance nodded. "Exactly. Singapore is not a country rich in natural resources, but it has invested in its people, invested in education, and fostered a culture of lifelong learning. That is the strength of this nation." Those words deeply resonated with me. While the United States was abundant in resources, the quality of life for its citizens varied greatly, and investment in education could be inconsistent. But Singapore was different. It was a nation that nurtured its people. I observed my surroundings more closely. Not just young professionals, but also the elderly. All age groups were learning in their own ways. Back home, the concept of lifelong education wasn't as prevalent, but Singapore was completely different. All age groups continuously learned, grew, and strived for improvement. I thought, this is what a truly advanced nation looks like. I walked over to the English learning section. Various English textbooks were arranged, from phonetics to advanced grammar. I picked up a book and flipped through it. The elegant characters seemed beautiful, full of artistic flair. One day, I want to speak this language fluently, I thought, a firm goal forming in my mind. To study English, to work and live in Singapore. I want to become a part of this nation. My friends too were each looking at books that interested them. A friend looking at Singaporean history books, another at Singaporean tea culture, another at Singaporean cookbooks. Everyone wanted to learn more about Singapore. We spent about an hour in the bookstore, quietly reading and passing the time. A sense of calm, which I had never felt back home, settled over me. As we left the bookstore, Mrs. Vance asked, "So, what do you think?" A friend replied, "Mrs. Vance, I think I know why Singapore developed so well. It's because of its culture of continuous learning." Other friends added, "Yes, their passion for knowledge seems to have driven the nation's progress." I nodded in agreement. "Mrs. Vance smiled. "Exactly. Singapore is not a country rich in natural resources, but it has invested in its people, invested in education, and built a culture of lifelong learning. That is the strength of this nation." These words were deeply etched in my heart. The United States, while rich in resources, often saw its citizens struggling, and investment in public education could be patchy. But Singapore was different. It was a nation that nurtured its people. Next, we headed to Orchard Road, the bustling shopping and entertainment street for young people. Mrs. Vance wanted to show us the culture of young Singaporeans. The moment we exited the MRT station, the vibrant atmosphere immediately enveloped us. Giant billboards, fashionably dressed young people, laughter, and music, an energy completely different from any youth district back home. Walking into the pedestrian area, the first thing that caught our eye was a street performance. A group was dancing by the roadside, young people showcasing perfect choreography. We stopped to watch the performance. Moving to the rhythm of English pop and local hits, they were truly cool and exuded passion. When the performance ended, the audience applauded enthusiastically. We joined in the applause, and some even placed money in the box they had set up. "The standard of street performances is really high," a friend remarked in admiration. A little further, we encountered another group. This time, it was an acoustic singer. Though singing in English and some Malay, her voice was truly powerful. We swayed to the rhythm, feeling that music truly transcends borders. We then went to the market near the Red Dot Design Museum. Young artists were selling creative merchandise, from accessories and crafts to clothing. At one stall, we stopped. It featured modernly designed earrings with traditional Singaporean Peranakan tile patterns. The seller, a young woman, explained in English, "These are handmade by me. I try to combine Singaporean tradition with modern design. They were truly beautiful." A friend bought a pair as a souvenir. "These are great." Other stalls sold calligraphy works, beautiful English words like love, happiness, dream, and hope, written in elegant strokes. The beauty of the script amazed us all. I asked the artist, "Excuse me, could you please write my name in calligraphy?" The artist smiled and said, "Of course, your name is Sophia, right?" The artist skillfully wrote Sophia and added a character meaning wisdom next to it. My name in calligraphy is so beautiful. I carefully put away the artwork, thinking that someday, when I could speak English fluently, seeing this piece would surely remind me of this day. As evening approached, the streets became even more vibrant. Neon lights illuminated, and the music grew louder. I was completely captivated by this energy. "I want to live in a place like this," I vowed in my heart. I must return to Singapore, as a student, to pursue my dreams in this energetic city. The morning of the last day arrived. We had to head to the airport this afternoon. It was our final day in Singapore, and a pang of sadness squeezed my chest. I couldn't believe how quickly time had flown. There was still so much I wanted to see and experience. After breakfast, Mrs. Vance announced, "For some last-minute shopping, we're going to Orchard Road. Let's buy some souvenirs to take home." Orchard Road was known as Singapore's shopping hub, and also home to many high-end brands. My friends and I walked slowly, taking in our surroundings. The morning sun streamed down between the tall buildings. Commuters going to work, shop owners opening their stores, cleaners tidying up, though it was just an ordinary Singaporean morning scene. It felt special to me. Arriving at Orchard Road, it was already bustling with people. High-end department stores and luxury boutiques filled the area, visited by people from all over the world. The girls immediately headed for a cosmetics store. I followed them. Singaporean sheet masks and skincare products were known for their quality. After entering, the sales assistants greeted us with smiles. My friends started asking about various products, and the assistants kindly recommended suitable items to each person. One assistant approached me and said, "Your skin looks a bit dry. Would you like to try this moisturizing line?" Then, while applying the product to the back of my hand, she explained its benefits. It's perfect for cold and dry climates like in your home country. She even considered the climate of my country when making a recommendation. This subtle thoughtfulness moved me. I bought many masks and skincare products. At lunchtime, we entered a famous restaurant. My friends wanted to try chili crab and xiao long bao. Inside the restaurant, the menu had photos and English descriptions, making it easy to order. When the xiao long bao arrived, everyone gasped in admiration. The steaming hot dumplings, with their delicate, thin skins and exquisite pleats, looked like works of art. Taking a bite, it was truly delicious. The flavorful soup burst in my mouth. We also ordered Hainanese chicken rice and stingray sambal. After lunch, we visited the nearby gardens by the bay. It was a serene and majestic place. Entering the Super Tree Grove, I quietly looked around. I loved the peaceful atmosphere. Sitting on a bench, under the shade of a super tree, resting for a while, I could even see the distant Marina Bay sands. Mrs. Vance gathered us. "Everyone, how was your trip these past few days?" My friends answered one by one. "It was truly amazing. I never knew Singapore was such a wonderful country. So safe, people are incredibly friendly, and the food is delicious. Everything was perfect." When it was my turn, I took a deep breath and said, "Mrs. Vance, I honestly didn't know anything about Singapore. I just liked listening to Singaporean pop music and knew nothing about this country. But now, it's different. Singapore has become my favorite country." My voice trembled. "I definitely want to come back. I want to stay longer. No, I want to live here." Other friends nodded. Everyone seemed to feel the same way. Mrs. Vance offered a warm smile. "Yes, I'm very glad you all had such a wonderful experience. Singapore truly has much to learn from." At 1 p.m., we returned to the hotel. It was time to pack our luggage. The bus to the airport was scheduled to depart at 4 p.m. We went back to our rooms and started packing. I sat on my bed, looking at the shopping bags. Masks, pineapple tarts, clothes bought in Singapore. Each item was a precious memory. But my heart was heavy. Did I really have to leave? To go back after such a short stay? I looked out the window at Singapore's sky-blue skies, tall buildings, vibrant streets. I want to stay here. This thought consumed my mind. Suddenly, I made a decision. There was one last place I wanted to go. The nearby bookstore. I wanted to buy more English learning materials, and I needed time to organize my thoughts. I took out my notebook and a pen from my bag and began to write a letter. It was addressed to Mrs. Vance. "Dear Mrs. Vance, this trip has changed my life. At first, I thought it was just a fun school trip. But the time I spent in Singapore showed me what kind of world I want to live in. Safe night streets, friendly people, a society that values lifelong learning and respects young people. Singapore has all of this. Looking at the challenges back home, I thought, if our country could also develop peacefully, our citizens could live happily, just like Singaporeans. Mrs. Vance, I plan to study abroad in Singapore. I will convince my parents. I want to study in Singapore. I want to attend NUS or NTU. I want to work and live here. And one day, I want to become a bridge connecting the United States and Singapore. For now, I'm going to the bookstore one last time, because I want to buy more English learning materials. I'll be right back. Please don't worry. Sincerely, Sophia." I finished the letter, put it in an envelope, placed it on the desk, and then quietly left the room. At the bookstore, I selected several English textbooks. I was genuinely committed to learning and wanted to speak English fluently. After paying, I left the bookstore, carrying a heavy bag as I walked down the street. Then, I stopped in front of a cafe. Through the window, I saw people chatting while sipping bubble tea, a scene of peaceful daily life. I sighed. I want to live a life like that. No war, no fear, just a life where dreams are constantly embraced and pursued. I lingered there for a while, then checked my phone. It was already 3:30 p.m. I had to go back. I started walking towards the hotel, but my steps were heavy. Entering the lobby, I sensed a commotion. Mrs. Vance was talking agitatedly with the front desk staff. My friends were also gathered in the lobby, all looking worried. Sophia, Mrs. Vance saw me and rushed over. Where were you? Everyone was so worried. Mrs. Vance's voice was a mix of relief and concern. I'm sorry, Mrs. Vance. I just wanted to go to the bookstore to buy more English learning materials. I took out the books I bought from my bag and showed them to her. Mrs. Vance's expression softened. Even so, you should have told someone. Do you know how worried we were when you went missing? I'm truly sorry. My friends also came closer. Sophia, we were so worried. We thought you fell in love with a Singaporean guy and ran away. I'm sorry, everyone. I just wanted to see this city one last time. Mrs. Vance placed her hand on my shoulder. I understand, but we really have to go. The bus is leaving soon. Okay, Mrs. Vance. I handed her the envelope I had brought from my room. This is a letter I wrote for you. Please read it later. Mrs. Vance took the letter and nodded. I collected my luggage and boarded the bus. Looking out the window, I saw the streets of Orchard Road, the Singapore Flyer, and the Marina Bay Sands. The bus departed, and everything gradually receded. Goodbye, Singapore, I whispered in my heart. I will definitely come back. Next time, I'll stay longer. We arrived at Changi Airport, the same place I had stepped out of just a few days ago, but my state of mind had completely changed. I boarded the plane and sat in my seat, looking out the window. Singapore's land gradually shrunk. Tears streamed down my face. I hated goodbyes, but at the same time, I vowed to return. Next time, as a student. The next morning, we arrived at Washington Dulles International Airport. The gray skies of the United States greeted us. It was such a contrast to Singapore's blue skies. Stepping out of the airport, our parents were there to pick us up. My mom saw me and ran over. Sophia, welcome home. Hi, Mom. I hugged my mom, but it felt incredibly strange. Washington, D.C. felt unfamiliar, even though it was my home just a few days ago. Now, something felt off. My friends also started excitedly telling their parents about Singapore. Mom, Singapore is seriously amazing. Dad, women can walk alone at night there, and there are 24-hour convenience stores. The MRT is super clean. Their parents' expressions shifted to astonishment. My mom also looked at me. Sophia, did you like Singapore that much? Yes, Mom. It was so much better than I imagined. On the drive home, I looked out the window. The streets of Washington, D.C. came into view. Old buildings, often messy roads, and people with indifferent expressions. Why is it so dark? Why is it so dirty? Why do people look so expressionless? I couldn't help but compare it to Singapore. Arriving home, I opened my luggage and took out the items I bought in Singapore one by one. Masks, pineapple tarts, English textbooks. My mom came into my room. Sophia, what is all this? Gifts for you, Mom. Singaporean masks. I sat on my bed and looked at my mom. Mom, I want to study abroad in Singapore. My mom's hand paused. Huh? You want to study in Singapore? Yes, I want to study there for university too. I want to get into NUS. My mom sat next to me. Sophia, you were only there for a few days. Seeing it as a tourist is different from actually living there. I know, but Mom, I'm serious. I want to build my future in Singapore. That night, we held a family meeting. Sitting in front of my parents, I shared my feelings, what I had seen, felt, and realized. In Singapore, the safe society, the advanced systems, the learning culture, the atmosphere that respected young people. My father listened with a serious expression. Sophia, I know Singapore is a good place. It's also very strong in technology. But you are American. This is your country. I know, Dad. But after seeing Singapore, I realized that it's not conflict but peace. Not suppression, but freedom that makes citizens happy. My father thought for a while. All right, first, learn English. Then, we'll talk again in a year. If your mind hasn't changed by then, I'll help you. Tears welled up in my eyes. Really? Thank you, Dad. From that day on, I began studying English. 2 hours every day, writing characters, memorizing vocabulary. Then, something big happened at school. A week after the trip, my friends started posting photos and videos of their Singapore trip on social media. I also made a video, women eating alone at a hawker stall at 2 a.m., elderly people exercising in the park, perfect internet connectivity even in the MRT, clean streets. The title was, The Country That Changed My Outlook on Life, in 48 hours. The response was explosive. The first day, 50,000 views. A week later, 300,000 views. There were thousands of comments. I didn't know Singapore was so developed. I want to go see it too. Why can't the United States be like this? National attention in the US exploded regarding Singapore. Even school parent-teacher meetings featured Singapore as a topic of discussion. I want my daughter to go to Singapore too. I heard Singapore's healthcare and education systems are really amazing. The school invited Mrs. Vance to give a special lecture. A month later, the lecture was held in the auditorium. Mrs. Vance candidly shared her experiences in Singapore, the efficiency of the systems, the civic consciousness of the citizens, the hospitality towards foreigners, the education culture, the safe society. One trip changed the children's lives, she concluded. After the lecture, many students approached Mrs. Vance. I was one of them. Mrs. Vance, I've started learning English. Mrs. Vance smiled. Yes, Sophia, I read your letter. I was truly touched. A few days later, even more astonishing news arrived. The school received an official document from the U.S. Department of Education. Mrs. Vance announced it in front of all the students. Everyone, I have incredible news. The Singapore school trip has caught the attention of the U.S. Department of Education. The auditorium erupted in commotion. The Department of Education reviewed our school's Singapore trip videos and reports and has decided to formally adopt Singapore's education system and urban infrastructure as a benchmark for learning. The students applauded and cheered. A single school trip had started to influence national policy. We never dreamed that our 48 hours could create such a huge change. Afterward, the school began to transform. A Singapore Culture Week was established, where we ate Singaporean food like chili crab and laksa, drank bubble tea, and watched Singaporean movies. An English language club was also founded. Of course, I joined and was elected president. One day, several months later, my parents called me. My dad placed several documents in front of me. Sophia, look at these. These are university brochures for Singapore. National University of Singapore, Nanyang Technological University, Singapore Management University, Singapore University of Technology and Design. Your dad looked into it. It seems you can apply through the foreign student quota. You just need to pass the English proficiency test. My hands trembled. Dad, didn't we make a promise a year ago that if my mind hadn't changed, you'd help me? Sophia, you've been studying English every day, without fail. Your dad has seen it. Tears streamed down my face. Thank you, Dad. My mom also held my hand. Sophia, Mom also watched your video. Those elderly women exercising in the park. My voice choked. If Grandma had lived in a country like that, she might have lived longer and healthier, right? My mom also realized that Singapore was not just a tech hub, but a nation that cared for its people. Mom, I will definitely succeed in Singapore. And one day, I'll host you and Dad in Singapore. Several months later, I gave a speech at an event organized by the Singapore Embassy in Washington, D.C. My name is Sophia. A few months ago, I spent 48 hours in Singapore. Those 48 hours completely changed my life. The audience listened intently. In Singapore, I saw a safe society, a caring culture, citizens engaged in lifelong learning, and a society that respected young people. And I realized that this is what a truly advanced nation looks like. Thunderous applause erupted. Currently, the United States faces its own challenges. But looking at Singapore, I found hope. If we can develop peacefully, we too can build a country where citizens are happy. That is the hope I found. A representative from the Singapore Embassy approached me. Miss Sophia, what a moving speech. Thank you for loving Singapore so much. I should be the one thanking you, I replied, because Singapore gave me a new life. That evening, returning home, I looked out the window at Washington, D.C.'s night sky. But my heart was already in Singapore. In a few more months, I would board a plane to Singapore. This time, not for a school trip, but as a student, to create my future. What do you all think? This is the story of American high school students from prestigious families who experienced 48 hours in Singapore. What they saw was not glittering tourist destinations, but safe night streets, friendly citizens, a culture of lifelong learning, and a society that respected young people. These were things we take for granted every day. But for some, it's a dream world. This is Singapore's true soft power. Not economic scale or military might, but the consciousness of its citizens, its abundant human warmth, and its peaceful daily life. That is the true reason why people from all over the world fall in love with Singapore. If you can support us by subscribing to the channel and liking the video, we will share more interesting stories.